Good afternoon, I'm TerryTopCat and I'm with the wonderful Mark White and Steve Proctor. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Terry.
I've been dying for this for so long. And,
Are you sure?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Oh God, all right.
Because, you know, we've known each other a long time, Mark.
Yeah.
We live very near to each other. And I've been wanting to...
Too close, to be frank.
Have you got that restraining order yet?
Don't tell everybody. So, you know, so we've known each other a long time, and you're actually a big musical inspiration to me, and I loved ABC and all your early stuff, and especially The Night You Murdered Love, which was produced by the wonderful Bernard Edwards, who was in Chic.
Yeah.
That's one of my favourite ever records. As you know, everyone probably references the Lexicon of Love, but I love that because it was. And then I got to meet the wonderful Steve as well. When we went to, I think it was a Regent Street cinema. We went and saw a film about the wonderful Mick Ronson, who, you know, we all big Bowie freaks, and that was a really great film actually.
The oldest cinema in Britain.
Yes.
The Regent Street Cinema.
Lumiere.
Yeah, it's wonderful cinema. But yeah, that was a wonderful evening, wasn't it?
It was
absolutely.
absolutely.
Was it you that got me my ticket? Well, no, I took my daughter, didn't I?
You took your daughter, that's right.
Yeah.
And I went with you, Mark, and then we met afterwards, and then started talking about music, and then we've developed a lovely friendship over the years. It's been quite a few years, actually. Everyone can see I've got loads of music and posters, but Steve is the man. I mean, you know, your background is you're a DJ, live promoter in Liverpool, which is a city close to my heart. I mean, I'm not from Liverpool, but every time I go up there, I have a great time. Obviously, like loads of bands, and it's got great history, like Manchester has in the UK. And so you started out in the clubs in Liverpool. Say some of the names, because I'm not familiar with them.
I mean, I started going to clubs since when I was 16 years old, so it was clubs that don't even exist anymore. There's a great old soul club called the Timepiece, which is where you got proper underground soul and funk for the first time, you know. Then I started going to a club called Eric's in Liverpool, which was...
Are you going to give a year?
16 was 75.
1675.
1675.
Lucky.
It was 1675. I'm looking good on it, aren't I?
You're looking really
good, yeah.
And I've still got all my own hair.
Right.
So I was 16 in 1975, so I would go to the Timepiece, and then by 76 I was going to a club called Eric's.
Which is so famous.
It's a famous punk club.
Absolutely.
And I very quickly got involved with humping gear there. So I did the Stranglers and the Sex Pistols and the Jam and people like that. Just humping gear as a student, basically.
That's a bad habit.
Humping gear. Yeah, most people snort it, don't they? And then I used to go to discos as well. But my first club I started DJing at was a club called Cagney's in late 1979. And I made that really, really popular, which we'll come on to in a little bit. And then the next biggest club, and the club that became most well known, is Estate, which was an old Lions tea rooms, which was, you know, held about 1,200 people every Thursday night, and I had my own club called The System. And
what would you play? I mean, obviously at that time, that was pre-punk, wasn't it, or new wave or post-punk?
79, 80. It was originally called a Roxy Bowie night.
Right,
because it was basically Roxy Bowie and everything around them, you know what I mean? So it was anything, you know, some later glam stuff, but also things like Iggy Pop and Velvet Underground. But I was very quickly getting more into electronic and alternative music. And the term New Romantic first came about, which was sort of the look, the sound, the style, everything. From a musical point of view, I prefer the term futurist. I was talking to somebody about Simple Minds the other day, and they saying Simple Minds really fitted into that futurist sort of like genre and style sort of thing. So it'd be everything from Roxy Bowie, Simple Minds, you know, Kraftwerk, Depeche Mode when they first came out, the Human League obviously from the very beginning, and then a weird and wonderful little band from Sheffield called ABC. So basically, very early on, I mean, the spectrum of music went from quite heavy industrial underground music to what was really quite a fresh and exciting modern pop, which is what ABC was.
Steve was one of the first people playing all that kind of stuff. and he was really kind to invite us to do a PA at his club, you know.
This was
Because
the first single,
we
wasn't
just
it?
put out
Tears
Tears and On,
That's
the
right,
first
yeah.
ever single. He said, would you like to come up to to Liverpool, you know, make an appearance? We said, great, we'll hand out some records, T-shirts, things like that.
And they were great
And,
fun.
you know, because it's really important to have early supporters.
Because this is like,
yeah.
just stop you there, Mark. I mean, we're talking back in the day where it was a completely different beast of the music industry.
Oh, yes.
You know how promotion was and
Oh, yeah.
everything like that, and
Yeah.
so many different record companies, and they would actually invest in the artist as well. So quickly coming back to you, so you just released your first single with ABC, Tears Are Not Enough,
Yes.
and you were doing PAs. I mean, artists still do PAs, but back then it was obviously very different. So how did that? So you got signed to Phonogram,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and so explain how, you know, obviously you were vice versa, that you formed the four of you, or you had another member and then left, and then
Yeah.
you were originally the singer of ABC, and then it transpired that
Well, no, not of ABC.
of vice versa. Sorry,
Vice versa.
Right.
Yes, and Martin joined Vice Versa. We asked him to join, and then in a sort of incredible session we did once in Holland, we were recording some music, VV music, and you know, we just, I think it was me who said, look, because I'd heard Bowie had done this, let's all swap our instruments. It's something we don't even know how to play. Quite a punky thing to do, and just see how it goes. So I think I was on bongos or something like that. And in a sort of moment of fate, I handed the microphone to Martin, and we just started. And he opened his mouth, and everybody in the room went, what the bloody hell is that? We had no idea he could do that. We were going, God, it sounds like Bowie on Young Americans. We just didn't know. I don't think he knew either. So in a moment there, I just went, Martin, I resign from that position. You are now going to be doing that. And that was the beginning of Project ABC.
That's
and we
wonderful.
morphed slowly into ABC. And then ended up in
so you guys met in
Cagney's.
in Cagney's
Yeah,
in Liverpool.
I mean, obviously, I was quite a well-established DJ by that time, and one of the ways you got to know to be well-established is how many mailing lists you were on from London record companies, which meant they sent you free records, promo records, and things like that. And the more well-in you were, the more established you were.
Did you get ours?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So basically, you know, so you start to get what they used to call test pressings. Where basically before the promo come out, they do maybe 10 or 12 test pressings, depending on how many people they wanted to get it to very, very quickly, because they would be hand pressed rather than pressed on the machines. And I'd been sent a test pressing of Tears Are Not Enough, and I already knew about the band anyway, because I was, avid reader of The Face and all the music papers and all the rest of it, and I was aware of Vice Versa as well, so it was interesting to watch that evolution. So when I got sent the record, it was perfect. There was bands like Blue Rondo a la Turk were just coming around.
Shout out to Chris Sullivan, by the way.
I ended up promoting Blue Rondo a la Turk twice in Liverpool later on. But
Did they have a separate dressing room for all the zoot suits?
Yeah, they did. Yeah. They had a separate lorry.
Laura?
But so basically, it fitted in with that sort of new Brit funk groove thing that was happening, which was interesting because we were all, well, as a DJ and the crowd that I was playing to, we were already moving away from the pure electronic thing. We'd been into the Roxy Bowie thing, then we went to the electronic thing, and now we're already moving out of it by 81. So when the record company said, do you fancy them for a PA? I was like, yeah, we'd love to have them. And I think I was only one of about 5 or 6 DJs around the whole country that took them for a PA and had a really successful one. So of course it was wonderful when they came back to do.
So did ABC in the early days? Did they do a lot of PAs up north rather than London, or was it all over the country?
Mostly up north.
Mostly up
I
north.
think.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't remember doing any in London.
Right.
don't know why.
Before
Yeah.
you have the other singles, but when you
Yes.
with the first single. So Steve was telling about what music he played and what he liked. So you grew up in Sheffield, and obviously each member of the band had different influences, and Bowie was a big one, and Roxy Music, because you know I want to say a big shout out to Marco Pironi, because I was chatting online to him and I was saying, well, you and Mark White got me into Roxy Music, because so thank you for that. So what were you listening to? What were you obviously that time when you were writing for your first album? What did you like? Obviously you mentioned
I
Nile Rodgers.
think Steve has outlined the track there. For most people, my contemporaries, it was like this. We got into glam rock. So it was Bowie, Bolan, Roxy, the Holy Trinity, of course.
Yeah.
And then
And you could actually
evolved.
say that Bolan started it all.
Yes.
Bolan was the original glam rock prince, basically.
Yeah, with the
Yeah.
glitter star.
Yeah. But
was
he
that
was
Hot Love or Ride a White Swan? I can't remember.
Get It On, wasn't it? Hot Love or Get It On. Anyway, yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, very early on, early 70s. And that naturally progressed in about 76, 77 to punk.
And he
It was
had
the
his own
same
show, didn't he?
Yeah.
Because you told me about that. Mark
yes,
Bolan had his
Mark.
own show, and he had all
He
these.
had
tons of-
Generation X on, and he said, and here's a band with a singer who thinks he's prettier than me. Mark. But there's some great pictures of Mark with the Ramones on one side and Susie on the other. I mean, he loved all that stuff. And the Damned
Well, they loved him as
supported
well.
him live. Yeah, they
I mean,
loved him because obviously, you came from glam and then it went to punk.
Yeah.
And then how did it go to funk for you or soul?
Well, it went through that to
It
a
was always
phase
rolling
called
through.
post-punk, wasn't
It
it?
was, but that sort of funk thing was always rolling
Cheers,
through.
gentlemen.
Mainly from Bowie. I mean, Bowie was for a lot of us. Through Young Americans,
Yeah.
really got us into listening to funk and soul. I mean, I was already into stuff like that through the school discos and the church and the youth club discos, because I realised early on that whilst everybody else was trying to be in a gang and looking all hard, all the guys together, if I wanted to talk to girls, I had to learn to dance. So by the time I was 14, I was dancing to Hamilton Bohannon and James Brown and doing the bump and at the bus stop and doing all those dances.
How's that going, by the way?
Oh yeah, it's going great now. Yeah. Me and James like that.
Right.
No, but I mean, so there was already a lot of the soul boys, a lot of the new romantics were post-punk soul boys, pre-punk soul boys and post-punk soul boys, and they'd all come out of glam. It's a very convoluted thing.
And a young Luther Vandross was on Young Americans as well.
Absolutely.
So Bowie was and obviously Mark Bolan. Like you say, the three they were like influential to so many musicians of the next generation and of at that time as well.
70s was a really interesting period because you had coexisting simultaneously lots of different genres and there was no conflict between any of them. You could play a bit of T-Rex, Bowie, then it could go into James Brown, then back to a bit of Roxy. It didn't
Sounds
matter.
like my DJ.
Yeah, it didn't matter. And that was so creative and exciting. Now it's flatlining. I don't quite know why, but to me it's flatlining. But that's that.
But it was. I mean, the two main threads through that are the sort of the desire to be always hearing new music, exciting music, outside of music to some extent. Do you know what I mean? The stuff that most of the kids at school would go, "What you listen to that for?" Because basically, the sort of stuff that nobody would steal your records because nobody else knew what they were. You know what I mean? So it was that whole thing, but it was also how we looked, how we dressed. None of us wanted to fit in. None of us wanted to be part of the homogenous, fungible group, as it were. And that's the thread that is gone right through all of us. I think all the way down the line.
So talking of the thread, let's come to Balearic and acid house music, because you're one of the first DJs to play that, and obviously. It really influenced APC a lot, and tell me how you both discovered acid house, and then talk about You used to go to Shoom a lot,
right,
and
yeah.
you know.
I used to take him to
Actually,
Shoom.
Okay.
that's true. Actually, how it happened is first house music came out.
We're talking
Chicago.
87,
We're
88.
talking, yeah,
85,
you know,
86, 86.
It's
Early,
very
right, okay.
86, 87. The very early house stuff came out
Jack Your Body and stuff like that was 86.
from Chicago, and the north of England was way earlier on picking up on this stuff.
BPM up north has always been traditionally higher anyway. That's why in my alternative clubs I was playing a lot of high energy. And for me, house music, Chicago house, was basically a development of Italo disco and high energy, but just a disco. It was like all those. There was no. I couldn't give a toss whether it was gay, high, you know, whatever, what straight. I didn't care, you know, black, white, or whatever. Basically, it was up tempo. Fucking good music to me. That was all. You know, but traditionally, the BPM's always, the tempo's always gone higher up north, so it fitted in perfectly for us, and for you guys as well.
I just took to it instantly. I loved it. I mean, really, it's minimal electronic music, which is what I've
So
always
you guys would
loved
go to,
anyway.
you guys were very popular in America, especially with the, well, I loved particularly the Zillion Air album. So that was probably pre, like, you know, acid house. And
Yes.
so where were you exposed? Were you exposed to it in Chicago, in America, when you were
For
traveling?
me, no, it was in. I was still spending quite a bit of time in Sheffield. So there was a club in Sheffield called Jive Turkey. There was a place in Nottingham, which is just only 30 miles away, called the Garage, which was Graham
Park was DJing,
Graham Park, and of course Hacienda.
Of course.
And
the States at Liverpool.
yeah, so that was where I got interested in it. And London had its own scene, didn't it?
London was still the rare groove scene and the funk scene really, and yeah, I mean, interesting. That's how it crosses over. It's basically in '86 I decided that I'd had enough. Well, I'd gone as far as I could in Liverpool. My two last gigs I promoted in Liverpool were Zig Zig Sputnik and Big Audio Dynamite, and I was thinking I've got to get out of Liverpool. I've got to go to London. I accepted that even if I had to give up DJing and promoting, I wanted to come to London, and I got fortunate that a guy called Paul Redman, who worked at Polydor, actually said to me, "Look, Steve, I'm leaving. Do you want me to get you an interview?" So I said, "Thanks very much, mate. I'd love it." So he got me an interview at Polydor, and within the 2-hour interview with a woman called Carol Wilson, who was the head of A&R, who'd set up Din Disc and signed Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark and people like that, and had signed the Police to a publishing when she was at A&R. So basically, she had a really good history, and in the 2 hours during the interview, she decided to offer me the job. So I got the job on the spot pretty much. So when I came to London in January 87, I would already been playing a lot of house music. I was aware of house music. But in London, I had to learn the club culture in London, which was rare groove. So I set up a label called Urban for Polydor, doing rare groove re-releases. So I put out Maceo and the Max Cross the Tracks, the Jackson Sisters,
song.
I believe,
I love that.
Urban Classics Volume 2 of my compilations. So it got to that point where, but basically I was already wanting to sign Acid House Tracks. And I met with a guy called Larry Sherman, who was the owner of Trax Records in Chicago. And he gave me a copy of Acid Tracks by Future on a test press, American test pressing. And I took it into the A&R meeting and said, right, I want to sign this. And they were like, what is this? What do we do with it? You know, where's the hook? Where's the chorus? He's like, no, that's what it is. This is what's happening. And they just couldn't get it. And weirdly enough, I was already very friendly with a British rap artist called Derek B. And so I managed him for a short period. I left Polydor, managed him, did his deal with Phonogram. But by that time, I was already getting involved with the burgeoning. It was a Balearic scene more than an acid house scene. Right. Balearic was basically a few people went to Spain and happened to hear Alfredo DJing, and a guy called Leo Mas. Don't mention Leo so much, but they came back, and I was with Paul Openfold at Prestatum Soul Weekender, and he said to me, "I want to start a club in London, playing like all sorts of like acid house and house music, not acid house, house music, alternative dance music." And I said, well, pretty much what we've been doing in the provinces for years, you know. I said, but if you do it, we'll support you. And he started Future, and that's where we started going there. And then Shum started, and I was a regular there, helped to get started with that. And then one night, I was in Future. We were all very ecstatic at the time, weren't we?
Let's say quite happy.
And lo and behold, coming down this circular staircase is David Palmer and Mark White, and I'm like, and I hadn't seen them since '82 probably, so it had been about 6 years, 7 years, 6 years, and I was like, oh, I fancy meeting you here, sort of thing, and that was it. And then Paul Rutherford was with them.
And you went to produce Paul Rutherford.
Yes.
Paul Rutherford is ex-Frankie Goes to Hollywood. I love Paul, from Liverpool as well.
Well, I knew Paul when he was in a band called the Spitfire Boys that played with Eric's.
Oh, wow.
And Holly was there. I knew Holly when he was in big in Japan. So that's how it all comes around again.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so go on.
So you how did you meet Paul? So was it through the clubbing and that?
We just always seemed to end up in the same clubs and in the same after parties round at people's houses kind of thing, and just got talking. We just liked the same stuff, and I really honestly can't remember the moment, but it was like, yeah, let's make a record together, which was Get Real,
which is fantastic.
Yeah. And so we kind of, in a way, formed a mini group, which was me, Martin and Paul, just to do that, and wrote the song together and went into Trident Studios in Soho, which is an incredible studio where T-Rex had recorded, Bowie. I mean, the history in that bit, Beatles, it goes on and on and on, the names. So we did that and put it out. Yeah.
Which was amazing for me because basically I bumped into them again, and then we started going to Shum together, and then we started hanging around after parties together.
So tell everyone what Shum was like. So this is a club in the late 80s.
Shum. The first Shum night was late 87, December 87, and it was basically because Paul Oakenfold had done a couple of late night, all night, after hours, Ibiza style nights basically. So he was playing everything from the Thrashing Doves to new acid house, basically, new house music. A lot of smoke machines, and a lot of ecstasy, obviously, and then for a reason which I'm going to hold on for my book, it was stopped. They couldn't do it anymore. And Danny Rampling had found this fitness centre in Southwark that would go all night, basically. So he did one night there, and it wasn't very well attended. Carl Cox put the sound system in, Oakenfold DJ, Carl DJ playing soul and funk and rare groove, because that's all they had at the time. And then it was quite successful, but people were saying, do another one. So they started officially in January 88, and it just slowly built up by word of mouth. But it was the first devoted, what I would call acid house club that became known as an acid house club.
It was incredible.
It was a sweatbox, but no ventilation, just smoke machines going full time, few fluorescent lights, intense strobe,
really
and
loud.
But it was the first time where basically, Danny and Jenny were very experienced. I don't forget, I was already older. By 88, I was 29 years old. I'd already been running clubs and run big events. I know I'd done events for 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people in Liverpool and all the rest of it. So I was used to working with people and used to running clubs. So I helped them do their front of house admin basically, and help them get it going and keep it going, sort of thing. But it was the first time where you get a situation where there'd be a group of young kids who spent all summer on the island on Ibiza, it's called kiting, passing bad checks and robbing people and breaking into villas and stuff like that, and then come home in the winter and do whatever they could to get by until they could get back on the island in the summer. They were the original hardcore amnesia crowd. So there'd be them there, then there'd be the odd smattering of a few football hooligans who'd seen the early dawn. There'd be a few convicted felons who'd sort of just come out of prison, and there'd be there'd be a smattering of
there was a lot of that.
People up for the music business and people like that, and then there'd be pop stars like Mark White and Martin Fry and David Palmer and Paul
Kevin
Rutherford.
Rowland.
Kevin used to come down and all of a sudden. But it was a real melting pot, and it was really, really wonderful. Nick,
you could go there.
Patrick
on one
Cox
night.
was there. Nick Coleman would be there.
You could.
Michael Clark could be there.
You could write a record and make it with someone in the music business. You could meet a favourite shoe designer. You could see Philip Glass, the composer. What?
With
Yes,
Richard
I know.
Norris
And then
from The Grid.
Michael Clark was going there as well.
Famous choreographer.
And then if
Famous
you were up for
choreographer.
it, you'd get involved in a bank robbery later. You know,
Yeah.
it,
Did
it
they
was,
ever have
it was a
PAs
busy
there?
place.
Sorry?
Did they ever have PAs there?
No, gosh, no.
So it was just like pure DJs.
It was just basically. So I
PAs?
used to warm up for Ramping. Used to ask me to warm up for him because I used to lend him records that were big top of the night records. I'd lend them to him because he didn't have them. So only me and Oakenfold had a lot of the records from the very beginning in London. Slowly, people managed to get hold of them. But then he had people like Cold Cut DJ'd for them, and Andy Weatherall didn't DJ until it went to Busby's on a Wednesday night or Thursday.
Busby's, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I remember.
Well, that's where Philip Salon used to do.
That's right.
But basically, so getting back to the making a record thing, what was really incredible was one night I was booked to DJ at the first ever Boys Own mystery tour.
Rave in a field.
It was a rave in a barn in the New Forest, but basically.
Who knew?
So I was going down there because I was allowed to drive because I was DJing there, and I managed to arrange for Mark to be able to drive, follow me, with a few people in his car as well. And as he turned up, he gave me these 2 acetates. I said, "We've just made this record with Paul. Here's the various mixes of it," and it was Get Real. So I did something I'd never ever done. I'd made a golden rule of not doing. It was basically when I started to DJ. I got 4 hours because one of the other DJs had passed out in his car. So because I had time, I made a point of basically listening to the record. I thought this is perfect. So I played Get Real twice in my 4-hour set. And then I got paid in ecstasy by Andy Weatherall, and we all went off to somebody's house in a field in a farmer's field, and we spent all Sunday there. And I had it on non-stop, and I was just like, "This is amazing!" Friends of mine have made this incredible record, and of course it was Get Real.
So coming back to you, Mark, and ABC.
Yeah.
So how obviously that sound. Obviously you worked with Paul. You and Martin worked with Paul. So how did that influence on you guys writing the next album, or it transpired in ABC's music?
So we were on the last album for Phonogram. We were doing the 5th, and obviously influenced by all this stuff. And the way it used to work then is what would happen is often, say, a pop band or a rock band or any kind of band would commission remixes.
That's right.
And I thought, why not just cut out the stage of doing that? And why not just get in as co-producers the people who were making these records? So me and Martin arranged a trip to America, to Detroit and Chicago, and we met Steve Silk Hurley.
Legend.
Did a little bit of work with him. Frankie Knuckles in New York. Also met Derek May.
No, yeah, well,
A bit too chaotic to make anything.
but also quite disreputable now, unfortunately.
And also we met Ten City, who I think they've underrated really.
Oh,
They're
completely. There's so many classic songs.
What's that mix that we like?
That's the way love
the
goes.
Steve
Acidic
Silk
mix.
Hurley
Yeah,
mix.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you like the
His-
Steve Silk Hurley mix? Yes, there's
Love that.
an acidic mix as well. Yeah.
And that time,
Yeah,
Steve Curly
so
had
did
the
that.
number one.
No, unfortunately, for some reason, the whole process got derailed, and it never quite saw the light of day, apart from the odd surreptitious mix here and there.
So are the tapes still languishing somewhere?
Must be.
Because if you see, I don't know if you've seen, it's just a quick aside. Billy Ray Martin has just managed to release an album she made decades ago.
Wow.
The second Electribe 101 album. So if the ABC tapes are still there, there's got to be some scope to get into it and get something
that
done
would
with
be
it.
interesting.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great?
I don't know.
Because all that, there would have been 303s and everything all over it, and that would have all gone to tape, wouldn't it? Because it was long before modern technology.
24
So,
track.
coming back to ABC,
Sorry.
you obviously had a big audience. You were very popular in America, especially with When Smokey Sings, Being Near Me. Did you enjoy the touring did you tour a lot in America?
No.
Okay.
Only ever toured once, 82, 83.
Really? You didn't tour with that album?
No. I know people say, oh, to crack America, you've got to tour.
Yeah.
It's rubbish, actually. What you've got to do is make a record that the radio really likes. Then
every radio station
that does the work for you. So by the time we'd got to, say, San Francisco, LA, New York, the big places, we were already on the radio all the time, so did really well there. So but every single album that you do, you have to sort of promote it by doing basically the top of the pops of that particular territory. So it's a lot of flying. I mean, one year I went to LA and back 4 times.
And you used to have the
so
same
tiring.
management as Jody Watley.
Yes.
So big up to Jody Watley, big favourite of ours. Because
he Unlimited.
He had so many amazing artists, didn't he? He managed.
Yeah, Frankie.
In America.
Dead or Alive. ABC, Jody. That's enough, isn't it?
Absolutely. And all those artists broke America and did really well.
Yeah.
So I saw a picture on, I think it was social media, it must have been Facebook, with you and Martin and Smokey Robinson. I mean, the legendary Smokey Robinson.
Oh yes.
How was that meeting him? I mean, he obviously
Okay,
did he like
well, we
he
made a
must have loved the
single.
song.
This is with Bernard Edwards called When Smokey Sings. And that came out. We were in Holland, some studio, I think Hilversum or Amsterdam, performing that track. Well, who's on the show? Performing a track he's also got out simultaneously.
Wow.
Called Being With You.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I love that song, yes.
Yeah. And, you know, we said, could we meet Smokey? He said, oh yeah, I'd be really happy. So we met him, shook hands, took some photos together, total gent, as you would expect. And then about a month later, management handed us a letter, one to me, handwritten, personally, and one to Martin, handwritten personally, and on the outside it said Motown Records. Oh, bloody hell. Right, opened it.
Desist.
Thank God, no. No, and he said, it was great to meet you guys. Thank you so much for tributing me.
Oh.
Really appreciate it and like the record. The beautiful thing was, you know, that he just really loved it. And he said, if you're ever in LA, you may not know, I'm the vice president of Motown Records. I didn't know that, but he said, please come to Motown and I'll be happy to show you around. And then he signs it, your friend, Smokey.
Do you still have the letter?
I still have the
how
letter.
cool
How
is
could
that?
you not
Yeah,
have
you
that
must
letter?
frame,
I
you must
have
frame that one.
photographed the shit out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no way that one's ever
Oh, wonderful.
leaving me.
I mean, just to make a record of a legendary artist, and Motown is, I mean, it's just timeless, their music with all the artists, but then for the artists to actually appreciate it, I mean,
He said, oh, what you might not know also is that with that record, Smokey Sings, and his record, we'd actually made history, because he says it's never happened. He checked that an artist doing a tribute and the artist being tributed were in the charts at the same time.
How
So
wonderful.
that's a unique thing.
That's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah,
So that was nice.
That's
absolutely. Yeah.
I'm really glad that he was a gentleman, because sometimes, you know, those things can go. But I always think never be your heroes. But you know,
I know.
I've only ever encountered one occasion where I met a hero that's been very disappointing. For the most part, they have been. So, but it's always really nice to hear when other people have had positive experiences.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm not going to tell. I know you want me to tell you, but I'm not going to.
We'll do it off camera.
No, I wouldn't expect you
But
to.
I've been very lucky too. I've met most of the people, especially. Well, we all love Brian Eno, and he's around here as well. And
I have a phobia.
he's lovely.
About
He's so nice.
meeting-
I don't have a
about
phobia.
meeting Eno, because I so admire his work.
So Brian Eno was an amazing producer of, let's say we say David Bowie, Talking Heads, Let's not say some of the newer bands. Carry On Gentlemen. I mean, Eno's done everybody.
But he was also the main electronics wizard and keyboard player
in Roxy Music.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if I ever actually met him and he was even slightly off,
He'd
be devastated.
It'd be like, I'd have to go.
I'm going to send him
a third of my collection and burn them in
I'm
the
going to
street.
send him this video.
Please do.
I will.
Please do.
He will.
I'd have to burn them in the street, and I'm not prepared to do
But
that.
knowing Eno, he'd probably be horrible to you just for the perverse pleasure of having you burn his.
He might even send you an echo. You can
Well,
put
if
it
he
with
did
the
it as a
smoky one.
performance,
He's such a
piece, that'd be all
situationist.
right.
He's such a situationist artist that basically he would do that just for the fun of it.
So we got to wrap up. I mean, it's gone so quickly. So
That's it.
you're writing a book at the moment, Steve.
I'm writing part one of my autobiography, which I had hoped to have out in the autumn, but realistically, it looks like it's going to be early next year now. I mean, I said that's last year. It's going to be early this. No, it's just going to be called Steve Proctor: The Acid House Years, and it will talk about sort of late '86 to about '95. Then the follow up will be like a prequel to it, as it were.
Sure.
But yeah, so I'm in the middle of doing that. And just sort of trying to regenerate all my back catalogue at the moment.
Because you also we'll do another interview another time. You've run labels as well.
Yeah,
remix
producer, remixer.
And Mark, everyone can hear on TV. They've got all your back catalogue is always on the adverts, which is great. So I think I think ABC is such a generational artist.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because be my age or my parents' age. I even played.
Well, we seem to be the chocolate biscuit generation at the moment. I don't quite understand.
No, but even
that,
I played the music to my mum, and she might not know the name, but she loved the songs. And then be kids watching it and go, "Oh, I love that song," and then stream it, download it. So you can get the back catalogue, listen to the back catalogue of the wonderful ABC.
Yes.
Steve's book's going to be coming out. I'm TerryTopCat for Clusterview.com. Thank you very much for watching, and this has been so much fun, guys. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Well, we're gonna have brunch now, so thank you very much.
Thank you, young man.